Ms. Weidel, I would also like to ask you, I don't know how much of this program you have already followed, and to begin with the major sad topic that overshadows this day, the alleged attack in Munich. The Chancellor has said with us that the perpetrator cannot expect any leniency. He must be punished severely. I assume you see it similarly?
Yes, it is not an alleged attack, but a terrorist attack. Someone acted deliberately. An Afghan drove into a crowd while injuring many people. And it is always the same pattern that we hear, namely that Warsh, a rejected asylum seeker, this Afghan came to Germany. His asylum application was rejected and he received a tolerated status. The man has been in Germany since 2016, receiving social benefits because he was granted a tolerated status. He committed multiple offenses and was not deported. So the question is, does the risk policy need to be addressed? Especially Markus Söder. First of all, what is this man even doing here? And I can tell you, with an AFD-led government, the man would not have come into the country at all. And he would have been gone a long time ago. And accordingly, I do not understand this political failure and the same thing happening over and over again. I think people are fed up. They want solutions. They want secure borders. They want a consistent enforcement of law and order, including the deportation of both illegal immigrants and criminals. And therefore, the man really had no place here anymore. And with the AFD, he would not have been here anymore.
That's what you're saying now, but the case is still developing. As just reported by the Süddeutsche Zeitung, and this really just happened a few minutes ago. Afterwards, the Bavarian Minister of the Interior corrected previous statements and said that the suspect had not previously committed any crimes and was not required to leave the country. That would portray the whole situation differently. In that respect, it might be a bit too early to present it this way, especially if the Bavarian Minister of the Interior is indeed correcting his statements. We will wait and see, and we will certainly continue to follow this. It's about people, Ms. Weidel, and you see it similarly in the whole story, even in the big topic of migration. There are some on one side and there are others on the other side. And just as the concern about attacks in Germany is growing, as you just mentioned, we have also covered it extensively in this program, including with the Federal Chancellor here. So too is the concern, growing among others, that there is no longer sufficient differentiation in this country. And I would like to bring in our guest today, Christoph Mietke. He is, I don't even know where he is sitting, to be honest. There he is, right behind you. Mr. Mietke, you are 64. You come from Potsdam and you have a company with 200 employees from 27 nations. And I think, indeed, therefore, you naturally see the whole situation from your standpoint. And I am curious about your question to Alice Weidel.
Yes. Hello, Ms. Weidel. I wanted to share a bit of a story with you and convey that I am concerned about what kind of policy you are really pursuing, whether it can even remotely serve my entrepreneurial interests. The fact is, I founded a company in 1992, a technology-oriented company foundation, and from the very beginning, that has been my perspective, I have pursued a very competitive, very open-minded policy within the company. This led to innovations that we now export to 81 countries. Today, 21% of our employees come from these 27 countries, and the diversity and flexibility of thinking occur extremely peacefully. Now, these people who have contributed to winning the Innovation Award, for example, are increasingly concerned, while at the same time, I travel around the world. 80% of our products are exported. That means I enter various countries and they witness the debates on how we deal with foreign people. And my employees, who are active at all levels with different qualifications, are now starting to think about leaving the country because they feel they are not wanted. And that is my question to you, how you can advise me on what to do so that my employees feel comfortable and say, even with a foreign passport, I am welcome here.
If I may ask a follow-up question, how many employees then? I'm not saying employees in a gender-neutral way, because I don't use gender-neutral language. So how many employees do you have again? Was it 200? 280. And what exactly do you produce?
Medical technology implants, so very specialized high-tech products.
Like joints or what?
No. These are cerebrospinal fluid drains, valves that adjust and also measure brain pressure. One of our products was supposed to be implanted in astronauts to study space, weightlessness, and its effects on the brain. So it is very, very high-tech pressure measurement in the brain. Pressure measurement in the brain and regulation of brain pressure in people who have a problem with it. So neurosurgeons, we deal a lot with hospitals. And that is a very, very large group of people who are somehow concerned now. And when I go abroad, then people look at me and say, what's going on in Germany?
But in the end, the concern of the employees isn't necessarily related to what these employees manufacture and produce, but rather more generally that they are worried, right?
No. Well, I am primarily interested in what exactly a company does and what kind of employee structure this company has. You just explained that this is a high-tech product, and I think it also has patents on it. That means he has extremely smart employees. And who develop the patents and are very well educated. And my standpoint is the following. Everyone here in Germany who contributes positively to society, who goes to work, pays taxes, who provides added value to society, behaves well. Because ultimately it's about adhering to our legal system. That's the really big issue. It's not about discriminating against anyone. That's ultimately not what it's about. Rather, it's about our country being able to attract good, smart people from around the world, that they even want to come here. Sometimes they don't come at all because we have much too high taxes, because we have a problem with internal security. But you can tell your employees the following: you have absolutely nothing to fear. Because it's about, for me personally as well, ensuring that this state enforces law and order in the refugee and migration issue. That means preventing illegal migration. So that's what it's about for us. That finally the state, a German federal government, stands up and simply enforces the existing law first. It cannot be that people are here committing crimes who are actually obliged to leave. The man, and I wanted to add something about that, Mr. Sievers, was only not obliged to leave because he had a tolerated status after his asylum application was rejected. That is a big difference. Let's also talk about the asylum application in a moment. Yes, very gladly.
You say you don't want to discriminate, but now we've heard that people obviously feel discriminated against by the AFD. How does that fit together?
You have to tell me how that fits together. You just have to, you have to know the neutral audience. You just have to read through our program to see what it's ultimately about. I simply want this country to be very, very attractive for people who work at your company. So, and that's all it's about.
I would like to ask you to encourage the people I'm thinking of right now, if you want to do that. I'll give an example. It's a married couple. They fled from Iran because they didn't want their daughter to grow up there to Ukraine. Then Putin attacked Ukraine, and they came to Germany with the Ukrainian refugees. They happened to live in my yard, and I was able to offer them a job because I was happy that fleeing people had the ability to help me in times of need, as we had a shortage of skilled workers. And that's how it is. It's not like I'm running around the world saying I absolutely have to find some people from around the world. They are there, and you have a chance. And today, one of my employees was at the immigration office and had to fight hard. For it, they are now qualified and have been here for 2 years. And as I said, they are needed. If they all left, patients would pay the price. We are growing very strongly. That's where it comes from. So if you tell them you would support them to stay here, such people...
Would you do that, Ms. Weidel?
But of course, we are concerned with being attractive as a location in Germany so that we can attract qualified people. The opposite was done. In the last 2 decades, we had a net emigration of unqualified people and an immigration of unqualified people. And that's why we need to get back to a point where your employees feel comfortable in our country and also feel welcome. And accordingly, that would be great.
Okay, a kind of welcoming culture that we're hearing about right now. Ms. Weidel, I'll narrow down the question briefly. It has become clear.
A welcoming culture for qualified people who work here, pay taxes.
Exactly.
But not for illegals.
Not for illegals. We would delve into that a bit more. Good evening. Before I turn my back to you, I'll just sit down here like this on the steps. We'll delve into the whole topic again with Bodo de Vries. He's a nursing assistant from Bielefeld. Tell me, how many nursing homes do you have?
We have approximately 70 settlements, 7,500 employees in North Rhine-Westphalia.
And you have brought a nursing assistant with you from Georgia. This is Ms. Garanda Bolkwatsa. Good evening. It's nice that you are here too. Ms. Bolkwatsa, and this brings us to the topic you mentioned earlier. Your asylum application was rejected. That means, Ms. Bolkwatsa, you are currently tolerated, or how would you describe it? That is the current legal status.
Yes. Good evening. I am Garanda Bolkwaz. I come from Georgia. I work in Germany as a geriatric nurse. And I want to stay in Germany and continue working. I pay for my apartment and everything myself. And my question is, will Germany give me a chance?
If I may ask, how long have you been in Germany? Looking for German, 22 years, 2 years, and for 2 years German. Wow. Great.
2 years, 2 years. For 2 years? Wow. But we have to hold on for a moment. Purely legally, you are currently operating under this tolerated status, which Ms. Weidel just said they want to abolish.
No. So we need to make a distinction there. We fundamentally need to distinguish between wall immigration or migration into the labor market and into the asylum system. This woman, you are so qualified. You make a great impression. You are trained as a geriatric nurse. You speak German. You have learned the language. You came here. And this woman, according to my approach, according to our approach, would be warmly welcomed if she wouldn't even need to apply for asylum, but just come to us. Fully involved in job searching.
But she is a rejected asylum seeker and only tolerated in Germany. I understood her correctly just now.
She could immigrate through the labor market quite normally.
But the tolerated people are supposed to leave Germany first. I understood you correctly just now. You have just rejected the instrument of tolerance altogether.
No, she could apply like this and she would be warmly welcomed because she works here, goes and pays taxes.
But she is rejected, asylum seeker.
Once again, I tell you again, this woman could have simply come to Germany, she could have simply come to Germany and done her job.
And what would you say to her specifically now?
She can stay now.
She can stay as a tolerated...
She can still stay here. She works here. She pays taxes. And she is obviously needed here. Why? Because we have a shortage of skilled workers, especially in the sector, in the old sector, in the care sector. And we also have a shortage of skilled workers. I don't know how much she earns. Most likely it's not that much. Because in this sector, far too little is paid, in my view. I will ask the labour market, which is right here next to us, Mr. De Vries. If I may finish speaking. In this sector, significantly better pay is actually needed. These are the people who help other people. And there should be much more money available for them.
Pass the pepper, he's sitting next to you.
I come from Gütersloh.
See, you're just around the corner. What do you say about it as the boss?
The pay is certainly a question. We are tariff users. We pay with a diacony tenant credit the highest wages. We can certainly agree that it's too little. Then we will increase the redistribution process. Then let's see what you have to say about that. Whether you would still think it's too little if you also had to bear responsibility. Ms. Weidel, but your answers are not enough for me. And the appreciation that comes across from you is not what I experience from your party. I experience exactly the opposite of appreciation. That also needs to, especially with the success stories we have in this area on a day like today, where we hear about unbearable conditions in Munich, in Aschaffenburg. It needs to be said once. I see it like my predecessor, the culture of welcome. I don't see it at all coming from either your policies or your election program.